Hello, welcome to Sound of Fury Book Reviews. As usual, I'm Tina. Today I'm doing a book review of Tusk Love by Thea Guanzon. This is a book from Penguin Random House. It's coming out July 1st, 2025. It's a romance fantasy. Before I say anything, I will preface by saying that yes, I read this novel solely because I really love the Vox Machina show, which is based on a D&D podcast called Critical Role. And this was originally a fake book in the show. Here's a screenshot. I thought it was absolutely hilarious that they made this into a real book. The cover is also really pretty too. So I was like, yeah, I like a romance now and then. So I was like, this will be fun. Another caveat before I begin. This video discusses mature themes, primarily sexual situations. So I'd consider this video for those 16 plus, I guess. You've been warned. So to start, Tusk Love is a sweet and, in my opinion, overly spicy fantasy romance that is cute and at times funny. What is it about? As the daughter of an ambitious merchant, Guinevere's path has been predetermined. Marry into a noble house of the Dwendalian Empire, raise her family's station, and live quietly as a lordling's obedient wife. But Guinevere longs for a life unbounded by expectations, for freedom and passion and adventure. Those distant dreams become a sudden reality when her caravan is beset by bandits, leaving her guards slain and Guinevere stranded alone on the dangerous Amber Road. Her only chance of survival is to travel alongside Oscar, the aloof half-orc who saved her during the attack. Unlike Guinevere, Oscar's path is not so set in stone. With his mother dead and his apprenticeship abandoned, all that's left is a long, lonely walk to a land he's never seen to find a family he's never met. The last thing he needs is a spoiled waif like Guinevere slowing him down, even if the spark between them sizzles with promise. Despite his cold exterior, Oscar is brave and thoughtful and unlike anyone Guinevere has ever met. And while Guinevere may be sheltered, she brings out a softness in him that he has never dared to feel before. As the flames of their passion grow, they realize that soon they'll need to choose between their expected destinations or their blossoming romance. So that blurb kind of tells you the whole plot. Anyway, though, for a romance, this is one of the better ones that I've read. Romance, I would argue, is one of the most highly subjective genres, and that any number of small things can make you dislike the whole book. For me, if you follow my channel, you know that I'm very, very picky about the romance that I enjoy, and any hint of the alpha male possessiveness, dubious consent crap completely turns me off. I hate that stuff. This book has none of that. It has protective male lead, but he isn't conflating protective with damseling and controlling a woman, despite Gwen being quite the literal damsel. So if you're hoping for some of that stuff in this novel, you won't get it. But if you want a cute, cozy, grumpy versus sunshine romance that goes out of its way to show consent, you will enjoy this one for the sex stuff anyway. But more on that later. In terms of the plot, it's romance level basic. I don't mean to say that to be condescending, but you know, it's the romance first is the primary goal of this book. Basically, as you heard in the blurb, Gwen needs a bodyguard to get to her arranged marriage fiancé. Oscar has no money and also can't leave this naive young woman alone in the wilderness, so he takes on the job. The tension in the novel revolves around this looming arranged marriage and whether Gwen will turn it down and pick Oscar instead. There's also a running plot of mercenaries chasing them, though we see them far less than if it were a romance second and a fantasy first. I actually really liked the mercenaries and kind of wanted to see more of them because they were fun. There are some other subplots brought in to expand the characterization of the characters, though sometimes they fell a bit flat as they aren't given enough attention. There's a whole kind of thing about Gwen's magic that she has that I really would have loved to see fleshed out a lot more because I found that really interesting, but it gets kind of the most basic amount of attention that you can imagine for something that's actually so pertinent to her life. Then again, you're not reading this book for the plot mainly. As a romance with a capital R, the plot was actually quite good. Like, it had enough of a bones of a plot that I didn't feel like it was just like a sex book in disguise. It does have a story. I really liked the story. The world building is typical Western fantasy with a variety of species. It's set in the Vox Machina world, I think, though it's mainly forests and a few towns that you see. It's the typical kind of stuff you see, kind of like D&D derivative stuff, and that's good. I mean, if that's what you like, I like that stuff too. I thought it was fun. The characters are also fun. Oscar is great and very well balanced. He's protective and caring, but he hides it under this gruff exterior. He's a typical orc. He's a blacksmith in training, as it says in the blurb. I liked him. I wasn't in love with him myself, but I liked him. I thought he was a good male lead. Gwen, though, if Oscar wasn't there to soften her, I probably would have found her very annoying. Yet, she's annoying in a realistic way. She's exaggeratedly sheltered and hoity-toity, but she's also not a wimp. it just went too far with his naivete sometimes. It made her seem stupid. Like, there's a situation with gang members that shows up. I think it's intended just for laughs, which is fine because it was funny. I really liked that part. But it just broke the realism a bit because I was like, how could she not know? I also wasn't entirely sure what Oscar saw in her. Like, she's very hot, but that seems to be the main driver there, to be completely honest. Like, she's hot and nice, and I don't know. I can't really tell you too much about her. Unfortunately, while I enjoyed the story overall, I kind of lost interest halfway through in the Oscar and Gwen part of the story. I continued with the story because I had enough interest in seeing the, plotline wrap up. But, and this is entirely subjective on my part, when it comes to romance, once they have sex the first time, I am out. I don't need 5 long sex scenes in a book. I'm more of a 1 sex scene at the end romance person, or even a long smooch or a closed door one is fine too. If I want more than 1 sex scene, I'll just go have sex in real life. That's just me though. That's just how I like my romance books. And there was something really weird in the book too I had trouble figuring out for a while. It seemed like a continuity issue, as after the couple engage in a pretty intense sex act, they talk about her still being a virgin. I was like, they just had sex. It was really confusing to me until I clued in that the book was referring to loss of virginity as tied to penetrative sex within the patriarchal religious notions of purity, which are intended to limit women's value and their agency. Modern ideas of virginity, if people even use that term anymore, are so broad that I would argue if you're naked in a lake and a guy rubbing against your vulva and clitoris makes you come, that's just as much sex as the penetrative missionary position. So this sort of outdated idea that you're a virgin until you have like penis and vagina was at odds with the queer normative world building that existed in the story. Likewise, the ease a woman into first-time sex trope isn't one that I find sexy. There was just so much focus on how he was too girthy for her too. Like, ew, why? Like, why is that a thing? Why is that? I don't know. Maybe that's the thing people like. I'm just like, nah, thanks anyway. Overall though, it is fun, it's cute, it's relatively cozy, and it is very spicy. If you want all of those things, and or you love Critical Role Vox Machina, plus a Grumpy Sunshine romance, you should totally check it out. It's definitely worth reading. I totally had fun with it. I thought it was great. It was fun. I'm never gonna pick a romance book I don't think is my favorite book of the month, but again, that's subjective. That's on me. Maybe it's a character flaw. I don't know. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much to NetGalley and the publisher for the e-arc. I really appreciate it. And good job with that cover. It's really pretty. Thanks.